The night had already plunged into an abyss of chaos long before he times materialized. Orders returned from the kitchen, each rejection a sting. My feet, imprisoned in thrift store heels, pulsed with relentless pain. Victor, my manager, circled like a predator, eager for my downfall. 10 grueling hours into my double shift at Natasha's, a lavish Russian enclave for Brooklyn's elite, I was running on empty. Table 12, Anna, Victor hissed, pressing menus into my hands. Very important client. Do not fail. I nodded, a mechanical response, tucking a stray strand of hair behind my ear. My grandmother's voice, a phantom echo. Anushka, keep your head held high, Anushka. The memory of my babushka, 3 years gone, pierced my heart. Her face faded with each passing day, but her voice remained, a comforting warmth I could never forget. I navigated the dimly lit space, a maze of designer clothes and blinding jewels. The air hung heavy with the aroma of opulence, a scent that amplified my sense of being an imposter in my stiff uniform. Then I saw him asterisk. Back to the wall, he commanded the entrance, his gaze sweeping over all who dared to enter. Tall, broad-shouldered, a dark suit that spoke of unimaginable wealth, he exuded power. His face, chiseled with sharp angles, was framed by dark hair touched with silver. But it was his eyes, cold and calculating, the color of steel, that stole my breath. He wasn't alone. 2 sentinels guarded his flanks, their jackets hiding the unmistakable bulges of weaponry. A third patrolled the entrance, hand never far from his pocket. I recognized the type. Wealthy businessmen frequented Natasha's, but those with this level of security, eyes that never rested, they were something else entirely. I approached the table, plastering on my best professional smile. Good evening, gentlemen. Welcome to Natasha's. My name is Anna, and I'll be your server tonight. May I start you with some drinks? The sentinels ignored me. Their eyes locked on the room. He looked up, his gaze assessing. Clinical. Vodka, he said, his voice deep and smooth, laced with an accent. Beluga Gold Line. Chilled, no ice. I nodded. Just for me. They don't drink on duty. Of course, sir. I'll be right back with... And bring some zakuski, he added, dismissing the menu. Whatever is freshest. I turned to leave, but his voice stopped me, this time in Russian. And hurry up, little girl. I'm not used to waiting. The dismissive tone, more than the words themselves, ignited a spark within me. Exhaustion, frustration, the lingering ache of grief. Whatever it was, it silenced my survival instincts. In flawless Russian, I replied, Of course, sir. Patience is a virtue, even for people in your position. The effect was immediate. His hand froze. The temperature plummeted, his steel-gray eyes locked onto mine, all pretense of disinterest gone. My words, simple as they were, had triggered a visceral reaction. Even his guards tensed. What did you say? He asked, his voice dangerously soft, still in Russian. I swallowed, realizing my mistake. Yeah, I didn't mean any disrespect, sir. Your name. He cut me off, switching to English. Your full name. Anna, I whispered. Anna Petrova. Something flickered across his face. Recognition? Shock? I couldn't decipher it. Then it vanished, replaced by an impenetrable mask of composure. Anna Petrova, he repeated, each syllable deliberate, as if tasting my name. Bring the vodka, then we'll talk. It was a command. I fled to the bar, my hands trembling. What had I done? What had that simple phrase unleashed? You look like you've seen a ghost, male, the bartender remarked. What's wrong? The man at table 12, I whispered. Do you know who he is? Male paled. That's Maxim Volkov. What did you times do asterisk, Anna? The name meant nothing, but Male's reaction spoke volumes. I spoke Russian to him. He said something rude, and I responded. You times spoke Russian times to Volkov? Male hissed, nearly dropping the bottle. Are you insane? That man owns half of Brighton Beach. The other half is too afraid to admit he owns him too. My stomach turned to ice. A mafia boss. I had talked back to a mafia boss. Here. Male pushed the vodka towards me, along with a plate of pickled herring and black bread. Don't make him wait any longer. And Anna, whatever you do, don't times mention where you learned Russian. I frowned. Why would that matter? Male shook his head. Trust me, it matters. With trembling hands, I returned to the table. Volkov's eyes followed my every move, the intense focus of a predator. I set down the tray, struggling to keep my hands steady. Will there be anything else, sir? I asked, proud that my voice didn't betray my fear. Sit, he said, gesturing to the empty chair. I glanced around nervously. Sir, him working. I can't. Victor won't mind, he said, amusement in his voice. My manager appeared, his usual imperiousness replaced by deference. Take your break, Anna, Victor said. Mr. Volkov has requested your company. Before I could protest, Victor vanished, leaving me no choice but to sink into the chair beside the most dangerous man I'd ever met. Volkov dismissed his guards, and they retreated, giving us a semblance of privacy. Where did you learn that phrase? Volkov asked, his voice low and dangerous. I blinked. Which phrase, sir? Patience is a virtue, even for people in your position, he quoted, his eyes unwavering. Those exact words. I don't understand, I stammered. It's just a saying. My grandmother used to tell me. Your grandmother, he interrupted, leaning forward. What was her name? A warning bell sounded. Male's caution echoed in my mind. Why do you want to know about my grandmother? I asked, my voice small. Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Answer the question, Anna Petrova. The way he said my name sent a shiver down my spine. Elena, I whispered. Elena Petrova. She died 3 years ago. Volkov went still, his expression unreadable. He downed the vodka, then set the glass down carefully. Elena Petrova, from Odessa. My breath caught. Yes. How did you... And your mother? What was her name? My confusion deepened. Katya. She died when I was a baby. I never even knew her. He closed his eyes briefly, and when he opened them, there was something new in his gaze, something that resembled pain. Do you know who your father is, Anna? He asked, his voice strangely gentle. I shook my head. Grandmother said he was an American businessman who abandoned my mother when she got pregnant. I don't even know his name. Volkov reached into his jacket and retrieved his phone. He tapped the screen, then turned it towards me. The photo showed a younger version of my grandmother, her arm around a beautiful young woman with my dark hair and green eyes. My mother. I'd seen the picture before, but what I hadn't seen was the third person, partially cut out of the version my grandmother had shown me. A young man with dark hair and steel-gray eyes, his arm protectively around my mother's waist. That's my mother, I whispered, then looked at Volkov in utter confusion. But how do you have this picture? Who is that man? Volkov put the phone away, his movements controlled. That phrase you repeated, about patience being a virtue, it wasn't just something your grandmother said. It was a code phrase used between your grandmother and me many years ago. I don't understand. No, you wouldn't. He studied me. Your mother and we were supposed to be married, but there were complications. People who wanted me dead. People who would hurt anyone close to me. My heart raced. I sent Katya away to protect her. Elena, your grandmother, arranged everything. New identities, new lives in America. His jaw tightened. I was told there was an accident, that both Katya and her child, *U*, had died. The restaurant faded as the ground shifted beneath my feet. What are you saying? I'm saying, Anna Petrova, he replied, his voice barely audible, that the American businessman your grandmother told you about doesn't exist. Your father didn't abandon you. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing my cheek with unexpected tenderness. Your father is sitting right in front of you. The world spun. I gripped the table, trying to anchor myself as 25 years of believing I was unwanted shattered. No, I whispered, shaking my head. That's not possible. Grandmother would have told me. Wouldn't she? The same grandmother who used one of our secret code phrases as a common saying? Who cut times him times out of every photograph? Who told you your father was an American who abandoned you? His eyes darkened. Elena took you from me, Anna. She made me believe you were dead. I stood, nearly knocking over my chair. I need to go. Volkov reached for my wrist, but I pulled away. I need a moment, please. He nodded, releasing me. Don't run, Anushka. Not now that I've finally found you. The use of my grandmother's pet name shocked me. I fled towards the back of the restaurant, out into the alley. The cool night air hit my face, and I gulped it down. This couldn't be happening. The most feared man in Brighton Beach couldn't be my father. My grandmother couldn't have lied my entire life. But even as I denied it, the pieces fell into place. My grandmother's paranoia, our frequent moves, her insistence that I never reveal our Russian background, the way she tensed at news about the Russian Mafia, and my mother's eyes, the same steel gray as the man at table 12. Anna. I turned to find Victor, his usual smugness replaced by concern. Hez asking for you, Victor said. Whatever is happening between you and Volkov, be careful. Men like him don't take rejection well. I wrapped my arms around myself, feeling cold. Did you know about him? About me? Victor shook his head. I only know that Maxim Volkov doesn't speak to waitresses, doesn't show personal photos to strangers, and definitely doesn't let people just walk away from him. He hesitated, then added, But he's letting times set the pace. That means something. I closed my eyes, trying to think. I could run, disappear, and start over, as my grandmother taught me. But I was tired of running, tired of not knowing who I was or where I came from. If this dangerous man was truly my father, didn't I deserve to hear his story? He'll come back in, I said, opening my eyes. But I need answers, not threats or intimidation. Victor nodded, relieved. I'll tell him. As Victor disappeared, I took a deep breath. My life had been upended in a single conversation, because Eid responded to a rude comment in Russian. There would be no going back. I squared my shoulders and walked back inside, towards the man who claimed to be my father, towards answers I wasn't ready to hear, towards a future as uncertain as my past. The walk back to Volkov's table felt like crossing a minefield. Every eye seemed fixed on me, though it was probably my imagination. They couldn't see how my world had imploded. Volkov stood as I approached, a gentleman's gesture. He dismissed his guards, and they retreated, giving us privacy. "Shall we go somewhere more private?" he asked. I shook my head. No, here is fine. Public was safer. Witnesses meant protection. A smile touched his lips. Very well. He gestured to the chair, and I sat down. For long, agonizing seconds, neither of us spoke. I studied his face, searching for resemblances. The shape of his eyes, the set of his jaw. Yes, there were echoes of my own features there. You have questions, he said finally. A lifetime of them, I replied, my voice steady. But let's start with the most obvious. If you're my father, why didn't you look for me? For 25 years, I believed you wanted nothing to do with me. Something dark flashed across his face. Because I thought you were dead, Anushka. Elena. He paused, composing himself. Elena told me there had been an accident, that Katya and her unborn child had died. She even showed me newspaper clippings, death certificates. All forgeries, I now realize. But why would she do that? Why separate us? Volkov reached for the vodka bottle, pouring himself another measure. He offered me the glass, but I shook my head. Your grandmother never approved of me, he said after taking a sip. Even before I became what I am now, I was from the wrong side of Odessa, with the wrong connections, the wrong ambitions. His lips twisted into a humorless smile. The only thing I really had going for me was how much your mother loved me. He set down the glass, his fingers lingering on the stem, and I loved her more than anything. Despite everything, I felt a pang at the grief in his voice. What happened to her? To my mother? I asked quietly. Grandmother would never talk about it. A car accident. Real, not fabricated. His voice hardened. But the circumstances were complicated. Complicated how? He studied me, as if debating how much to reveal. I had enemies even then, people who would target those I cared about in order to get to me. A realization washed over me. Are you saying my mother was murdered? Because of you? His silence was answer enough. I pressed my fingers to my temples, trying to process this new horror. So, grandmother was right to take me away. To hide me from you. No. The word was sharp, almost violent. Elena should have told me the truth. I would have protected you. I would have moved heaven and earth to keep you safe. The way you kept my mother safe, the words escaped, bitter and accusing. I expected anger, even threats. Instead, pain flashed across his face, before his expression smoothed back into neutrality. I made mistakes, he admitted quietly. I was young, arrogant. I thought my growing power would shield those I loved. His jaw tightened. I was wrong. We fell silent, the weight of the past hanging between us. Around us, the restaurant continued, the waiters gliding, the silverware clinking, conversations murmuring, while my existence was rearranged. I don't know what you want from me, I said finally. I'm not part of your world. I'm just a waitress trying to finish college. Something like pride flickered in his eyes. College? What are you studying? Linguistics and international relations, I answered. I graduate next semester. Your mother would be proud, he said softly. She was brilliant with languages, too. The mention of my mother sent a pang through my chest. I have her diaries, Volkov said, almost as if reading my thoughts. Letters she wrote, photos, things I've kept safe all these years. You'd share those with me? They're yours by right. He reached into his jacket, withdrawing a business card. He placed it on the table. My private number. When you're ready, call me. We have much to discuss. I made no move to take the card. What makes you think I even want anything to do with you? I lowered my voice. You're a criminal. I'm a businessman with interests that sometimes operate in gray areas. He corrected mildly. And I'm your father. DNA doesn't automatically make you a father. No, he agreed. But it's a start. I couldn't argue. Whatever else he might be, this man was my blood, the missing piece of my identity. I need time, I said, to think, to process all of this. He nodded. Of course, but there's something else you should know. His expression grew serious. Once word gets out about who you are, and at times will asterisk, your life will change. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? My enemies will see you as leverage, a way to get to me. His voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. You'll need protection. I don't want protection. I want my normal life back. That's no longer an option, Anushka. There was regret in his voice. The moment you spoke that phrase to me, your old life ended. I'm sorry for that. Anger flared. So, I'm just supposed to accept that? Let you take over my life because of a relationship I didn't even know existed until an hour ago? No, he said, surprising me. You're supposed to make your own choices, but with full awareness of the consequences. I looked around the restaurant, feeling paranoid. Were people watching us? Would I be followed, kidnapped, used as a pawn? Stop, Volkov said, his voice gentler. You're safe for now. No one else knows who you are to me. But they will eventually, he conceded. Which is why we need to prepare. We don't need to do anything, I said, rising. I need to finish my shift and go home. I need to think. He made no move to stop me, but his voice followed me. "The card, Anna." Reluctantly, I took it. "And Anna," he added, making me pause, "don't go to your apartment tonight." I turned back, alarmed. "Why not?" "Precaution," he said simply. "Stay." Had you ever felt as if your life was a carefully constructed play, only to discover the script was rewritten without your consent? I did, in a place I thought safety existed. I watched him, a man draped in shadows and draped with power, leaving me with questions hanging heavy in the air, questions that threatened to unravel my carefully woven existence. He seemed to anticipate every question even before it was asked, and my every thought was known by him. I saw fear in Victor, and even a desire for me to leave. I just wanted to hide. That night, Volkov's business card felt like a brand in my pocket, a tangible representation of the seismic shift that had just occurred. His warning became a mantra of fear. My fear now became my reality. I sought refuge at May's, hoping familiarity would heal. The scent of jasmine offered a whisper of peace, but the chaos of the night replayed endlessly. A text shattered my momentary relief. He had eyes everywhere. The world was a battlefield, a dangerous game I didn't sign up for. The words were on the screen, and I felt my breath turn to stone. I was left with questions as the sun set, and my mind raced. What was I now, a plaything? Sleep offered no escape, only an endless loop of anxieties. I sat at the window, the city lights blurred. As dawn painted the sky, a new text arrived, a black Mercedes, a driver named Alex, Brighton Beach. Part of me wanted to run, to disappear into the anonymity of the city. Another part, the part that had always yearned for connection, craved answers. I texted back, a simple act of defiance in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. "I have class at 11. The response was swift. "You'll be there in time." Alex, a silent sentinel, drove me through the waking city. The towering skyline seemed to mock my anxieties. We arrived at a stately brownstone, a far cry from the opulent mansions of my imagination. Volkov himself stood at the entrance, a casual black sweater failing to mask the inherent danger he exuded. "Anka," he greeted, his voice a surprising balm amidst the storm. "Thank you for coming." The interior was a study in understated elegance, a testament to refined power. He led me to a sun-drenched kitchen, a surprisingly domestic space. He filled the kettle, a quiet dance of normalcy in a world gone mad. "Tea," he offered. I studied him, the physical resemblance undeniable. "You're staring," he observed, a hint of amusement in his eyes. "I'm trying to reconcile the image of the dangerous man I've heard about with this." I gestured around the room. He smiled faintly, placing a steaming cup before me. "We all contain multitudes, Anushka, even Russian Mafia bosses." He had a romantic, deep voice, and I felt myself softening. "Is that what you are, officially?" "Officially, I am a businessman with interests in real estate, imports, and hospitality," he replied smoothly. "Unofficially, let's just say I maintain order in certain communities that don't always trust the conventional authorities." "You're a criminal," I stated, the word hanging heavy in the air. "By some definitions, yes," he conceded, unperturbed. "By others, I'm a necessary alternative to a system that has never served our people well." I pushed the argument aside, focusing on the core. "You said my mother died in a car accident. What really happened?" Volkov's expression turned grave. "Are you absolutely sure you want to know this now?" "I've spent the last 25 years not knowing," I insisted. "I'm done with secrets." He nodded slowly. "Very well. But remember, you asked for this." A deep breath, and then the truth. It wasn't just an accident. The brake lines in her car had been deliberately cut. She was 7 months pregnant with you at the time. I gasped, my hand flying to my mouth. "How did I survive?" "A miracle," he said softly. "The doctors performed an emergency C-section. You were premature, fragile." His voice roughened with emotion. "Elena told me that neither of you had made it. Who did it? Who killed her?" "A rival organization. a message meant for me. His eyes darkened. They've long since paid for their mistake. I didn't press for details. Some truths are better left buried. After I believed that both of you were dead, I changed. He continued, his voice low. Became harder, more ruthless, built my organization into what it is today. He met my gaze, his intensity piercing. "I'm not a good man, Anna, but I was a man who loved your mother with everything I had, and I would have loved you just as much." His deep, loving words felt good to my soul. Why should I even believe any of this? I challenged, my voice trembling. You could be manipulating me for some reason that I don't even understand yet. He left the room, returning with a small wooden box. "I've carried this with me for 25 years, he said quietly. "Open it." Inside lay a faded photograph of my mother, a delicate gold chain, a handwritten letter, and a tiny pink hospital bracelet. Baby girl Petrova, my bracelet, from the day I was born. "How?" I whispered. "I bribed a nurse to give me something, anything, from the daughter I thought had died," he answered, his voice thick. I needed something tangible to mourn. Tears blurred my vision. 25 years of feeling unwanted dissolved in the face of this simple proof of a father's grief. "There's more," Volkov said gently. "Letters your mother wrote to you, photos, her journals, all for you when you're ready." I closed the box, overwhelmed. "I don't even know what to feel," I admitted. Everything I thought I knew was a lie. "Not everything," he countered, his gaze softening. "Elena loved you. She raised you well, made you strong, independent." A smile touched his lips. "Taught you to answer back to men who disrespect you, even dangerous ones." I found myself smiling back. "She did do that. Yes, she was wrong to take you from me," he said, his voice hardening slightly. "But her motives were pure. She wanted to protect you from my world, and now I'm a part of it, whether either of us wants that or not." He leaned forward, his expression grave. "People will have seen us together last night. Questions will be asked, connections will be made. It's only a matter of time before my enemies learn about you." I saw in his eyes a deep pain for me. Fear knotted in my stomach. What does that mean for me? It means changes, security, precautions. He held up a hand. "I'm not asking you to abandon your life, Anushka, but certain adjustments will be necessary." "What kind of adjustments?" "For starters, you'll need to move. Your current apartment isn't secure." "Move? I can't afford." "Money isn't an issue," he interrupted. "I own several properties with adequate security. I've managed just fine on my own this long. I don't need your money." Something like respect flickered in his eyes. "Your independence is admirable, but this isn't about pride, Anna. It's about survival. You're asking me to completely uproot my entire life based on a danger I haven't even seen any actual evidence of." "The man watching your friend's apartment last night was evidence enough," he countered. "If my people hadn't intervened, who was he?" "A freelancer hired to track any unusual movements in my circle. Standard practice. When someone like me shows interest in a waitress, people tend to notice. Our world, not my world. I have classes, work, friends. I can't just disappear into your protection and completely forget about my life." "I'm not asking you to," he said patiently. "Attend your classes, keep your job if you wish, see your friends, but do it all with proper security measures in place. Like bodyguards following me around campus? There are more subtle approaches. You're studying linguistics and international relations, correct? Perhaps an internship at one of my legitimate businesses would be appropriate. It would justify security without raising unnecessary questions. Are any of your businesses actually legitimate?" A smile played at his mouth. "Many are. Import-export, real estate, a chain of restaurants, including Natasha's." "You own Natasha's. Is that why Victor was so afraid of you?" "Victor has good reason to be cautious around me." "Yes." A flash of danger crossed his face. "But that's not really relevant right now." "So, what happens next?" I asked sarcastically. You set me up in some fortress and I just adjust to being a Mafia princess? His expression hardened. This isn't a movie, Anushka. There are no Mafia princesses, and there are only targets and assets. Right now, you're potentially both. The harshness cut me. I need time, I said, needing him to understand. To process all of this, to decide what I actually want. I was afraid. Volkov nodded. Of course. But while you're deciding, allow me to at least implement some very basic security measures. He retrieved a small box. Inside was a sleek, new smartphone. It's secure, encrypted, untraceable. My number and Alexa's are already programmed in. If you need anything at all, call. His tone was soft and caring. I hesitated before taking it. Accepting the phone felt like a first step on a path I was unsure I wanted to travel. What about my current phone? Keep it for appearances, but understand that it can be monitored. No sensitive conversations. No references to me or your connection to me. I slipped the new phone into my pocket, feeling its weight. I'll have Alex drive you to your class, Volkov said, glancing at his watch. Well, talk more later, when you've had some time to think. Alex appeared in the doorway, keys in hand. Thank you for the tea, I said formally. Volkov walked me to the door, maintaining his distance. At the threshold he paused. Anushka, he said, his voice softer. I've missed 25 years of your life. I don't expect to make up for that overnight, but I sincerely hope that with time you might allow me to actually know you. I simply nodded and hurried to the car. As Alex drove me toward campus, I stared at the passing streets, trying to reconcile my old life with the new. The secure phone felt like a tether to a world I hadn't asked for, but couldn't entirely reject. My father wasn't just any man. He was Maxim Volkov, a man who inspired fear, a man who spoke of enemies with calm certainty, a man who'd admitted to becoming harder after losing my mother and believing had lost me. What had he done? What blood was on his hands? Did I even want to know? The car stopped in front of my campus building. I'll wait here, Alex said. To drive you home after class. That's really not necessary, I started, but his expression was impassive. Mr. Volkov's instructions, he said simply. I sighed. Fine. It'll be 2 hours. Alex nodded, settling back to wait. My Russian literature class had never felt so mundane. As Professor Baranova droned on about time's crime and punishment asterisk, I struggled to focus. The irony wasn't lost on me. Miss Petrova, Professor Baranova said, cutting through my thoughts. Your thoughts on Raskolnikov's moral justification? I straightened up, scrambling for an answer. He believed that extraordinary men were above conventional morality, I managed, that they could transgress moral boundaries for a supposedly greater purpose. The air hung thick with unspoken questions, a silence so profound it felt like a held breath. Had I stumbled into a world where morality wore a mask of necessity, where darkness served a twisted form of justice? That single, lingering question, born from a classroom discussion, now echoed the very justification Maxim Volkov himself had offered. As the bell released the other students, I lingered, the weight of looming decisions pressing down like a physical burden. Truth versus lies, trust versus suspicion. A life irrevocably changed in a single, terrifying revelation. I, Anna Petrova, was Maxim Volkov's daughter. Then, a lifeline. My phone buzzed, a message from Lily, coffee, usual spot, a beacon of normalcy in a sea of chaos, a chance to breathe before diving headfirst into this new, surreal reality. Be there in 5, I replied, desperate for the grounding presence only she could provide. Lily, with her vibrant blue hair and inked tributes to literature, was a splash of color in the sterile cafe. You look like hell, she greeted me, her brow furrowed with concern. Bad shift, I muttered, sinking into the worn armchair. You have absolutely no idea. She slid a steaming cup across the table. Extra shot of espresso, just what you need. Thanks, I murmured, wrapping my hands around the warmth. Victor being a jerk again? I hesitated, searching for words that wouldn't shatter the fragile peace. Family stuff, I finally offered. Found out some things about my father. Her eyes widened. Your father? I thought you didn't even know who he was. I didn't until last night, I said, choosing my words carefully. Turns out my grandmother lied. He didn't abandon us. He thought we were dead. Holy crap, she breathed. That's huge, Anna. Did you meet him? A nod was all I could manage. The truth too dangerous to speak aloud. What's he like? What does he do? Lily leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. I groped for a truthful yet vague response. Intense, successful. In business. That's it. In business? She rolled her eyes. Come on, give me something more. Is he married? Do you have secret siblings? Is he rich? Before I could conjure a safe reply, a presence at the entrance stole my attention. Alex, a monolith of dark suit and imposing stature, stood out starkly amongst the casual students. Lily followed my gaze, her eyes narrowing. Who's the man in black? Some kind of Secret Service reject? I closed my eyes, cursing silently. Someone who works for my father, I admitted reluctantly. He's giving me a ride. Her suspicion deepened. Okay, what aren't you telling me? That guy looks like security, not an Uber driver. It's complicated, I said, rising abruptly. I promise he'll explain more when I can, but I really have to go. Anna, she began, genuine concern replacing curiosity. He'll call you, I promised, gathering my belongings. I just need some time to figure things out. Approaching Alex, I couldn't mask my irritation. I told you he'd be 2 hours. Mr. Volkov's orders changed, he replied impassively. We need to leave now. A cold dread washed over me. Why? What's happened? His eyes swept the cafe before returning to me. Not here, the car. Fear clung to me as I followed him to the waiting Mercedes. The moment the doors sealed us inside, I demanded, Tell me what's going on. Mr. Volkov received some information, he said, pulling into traffic. The man from last night wasn't working alone. Others are actively looking for you. Who? Why? I pressed, needing to know. The Bratva faction from Queens. They've made the connections between you and Mr. Volkov faster than anticipated. And what does that mean for me? My voice trembled. Alexa's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. It means you need to disappear for a while, Miss Petrova. At least until Mr. Volkov can resolve the situation. The fragile thread of normalcy snapped. Disappear where? Fear laced my voice. Somewhere safe, he said, the car accelerating into an uncertain future. I'm not going anywhere until I speak with him directly, I said, crossing my arms. I want to hear this from Volkov himself. He retrieved a phone, identical to the one Volkov had given me. Call him. I dialed the only other number programmed. Volkov answered immediately. Anushka, he said, his voice tight. You're with Alexei? Yes, he says I need to disappear. What's going on? Silence. The situation has escalated rapidly. I've received credible information that Yuri Sokov has connected you to me. And who exactly is Yuri Sokov? The head of the Queen's Bratva, he explained, his tone grim. An ambitious man who would consider you a valuable acquisition. The casual threat sent a chill through me. I have finals in 3 weeks. I can't just disappear because some gangster might be interested in me. Your education is important, Volkov conceded, surprising me. But your safety is paramount. I have a property upstate, isolated, secure. You can continue your studies remotely while I resolve this situation. And how long will that take? A few weeks? Perhaps a month. A month? I exclaimed. That's non-negotiable. Volkov cut in, his voice hardening. Sokov is not someone to underestimate. His men have already been to your apartment. My protest died in my throat. My apartment? When? An hour ago, they were thorough. My stomach dropped. Did they? I swallowed hard. Was anything destroyed? The damage is being repaired, he said, which wasn't exactly an answer. I've sent people to retrieve your essential items. Clothes, books, your laptop. Anything else you need can be purchased. The efficiency with which had taken over my life frightened and infuriated me. You had no right. I had every right, he interrupted, as your father and as someone who understands the danger you're in. The word father hit like a physical blow. 24 hours ago, I would have given anything to hear those words. Now, the reality was far more complicated. I need to let people know, I said, thinking of Lily, my professors, my boss. I can't just disappear without a word. Alexei has a cover story prepared. A family emergency requiring your immediate return to Russia for a few weeks. It's believable and requires no detailed explanations. The thoroughness of his planning was unnerving. How long had he been preparing for this? This is happening too fast, I said, my voice small. Volkov's tone softened slightly. I know, Anushka, and am sorry for that, but sometimes fast is what keeps you alive. Those words hung between us. Fine, I conceded. But I want your promise. This is temporary. That I'll be able to return to my life when it's safe. You have it, he said without hesitation. This is about protecting you, not controlling you. Never doubt that. I wanted to believe him despite everything. I wanted to trust this man who shared my blood. He'll see you at the property tonight, Volkov continued. There are matters I need to attend to first, matters I probably didn't want to know the details of. All right, Anushka, he added, his voice lowering. Trust Alex. He would give his life for you without hesitation, simply because you're my daughter. The call ended, leaving me with that unsettling thought as the car continued its journey out of the city. How long have you worked for Volkov? I asked, breaking the tense silence. Alex's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. 15 years. Why? His massive shoulders lifted in a slight shrug. He saved my life. Gave me purpose when I had none. Doing what exactly? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Keeping his world in order. And now, keeping you safe. I leaned back, processing this. You're comfortable with that, with what he does? Mr. Volkov is a complicated man, he said carefully. But he protects what's his. His territory. He glanced at me again. His family. Family. Such a simple word for such a complex reality. Where are we going exactly? I asked, watching as the city gave way to suburbs. Westchester County, he replied. Mr. Volkov's estate is near the reservoir, very private, very secure. The car fell silent again as I watched New York City recede in the distance. My mind raced, grappling with the uncomfortable awareness that my life had been irrevocably altered. 2 hours later, we turned onto a private road winding through dense forest. Passing through an imposing gate with security cameras, we continued for another mile, before the trees opened to reveal a sprawling property centered around a stone manor house. This is his? I asked, unable to keep the awe from my voice. One of several properties, Alexei confirmed, pulling up to the entrance. But this is where he comes when he needs peace. The term seemed incongruous with what I knew of Maxim Volkov, but I said nothing as Alex opened my door and escorted me inside. The interior was unexpected, warm and elegant rather than ostentatious. Honey-colored wood, plush furnishings, walls lined with books, and windows flooding the space with light. Your rooms are upstairs, he said, leading me to a sweeping staircase. Mr. Volkov thought you might want to rest before dinner. The suite he showed me to was larger than my entire apartment, with a sitting area, a 4-poster bed, and a luxurious bathroom. Your things are in the closet, Alexei informed me. If you need anything else, dial 0. Mrs. Petranko, the housekeeper, will assist you. After he left, I explored my new quarters in a daze. The closet held my neatly arranged clothes, alongside several new designer items. My books sat on a shelf. My laptop waited on a desk beneath a window. It was surreal, this blend of my modest possessions within such opulent surroundings, like my life had been inserted into someone else's reality. Exhaustion hit me like a physical blow. The past 24 hours caught up all at once. I barely made it to the bed before collapsing. I woke to soft knocking and the realization that hours had passed. The room was now bathed in the golden light of late afternoon. "Miss Petrova?" A heavily accented voice called. "Dinner will be served in 30 minutes. Mr. Volkov has arrived and asked me to inform you." "Thank you," I called back, trying to orient myself. "He'll be down soon." I showered quickly and changed into fresh clothes, my own jeans and a new cashmere sweater I found among the items Volkov had provided. As I brushed my hair, I studied my reflection. Same green eyes, same dark hair, same face, and yet everything had changed. I was still Anna Petrova, waitress and linguistics student, but now I was also the daughter of Maxim Volkov, a man powerful and dangerous enough to uproot my entire existence. The question was, who would I be by the time this temporary situation resolved? I made my way downstairs, following the scent of food to a dining room where Volkov waited, rising as I entered. Had changed since our morning meeting, now dressed in a simple shirt and slacks that somehow made him look more approachable. "Anushka," he greeted me. "I hope you found everything comfortable." "It's all very nice," I said inadequately, but still a gilded cage. Something like approval flickered in his eyes. "You have your grandmother's directness. Please, sit." Mrs. Petranko appeared with steaming dishes, borscht, beef stroganoff, roasted vegetables. The familiar aromas transported me instantly to my grandmother's kitchen, bringing an unexpected lump to my throat. "Your grandmother's recipes," Volkov explained, noting my reaction. "I had them recreated for you." The gesture was unexpectedly thoughtful and effective. It breached a small part of my defensive wall. "Thank you," I said softly. We ate in silence for a few moments before I gathered the courage to ask the question that had been plaguing me since our phone call. "What happens now with Sokov and everything?" Volkov set down his fork, his expression turning serious. "Now I send a message that you are under my protection, that any move against you will be considered a direct attack on me, with all the consequences that entails." "And what does that mean exactly?" I pressed. "What consequences?" His eyes met mine, unflinching. "Are you sure you want that answer, Anushka? I need to understand what I'm part of," I insisted. "No more lies, no more half-truths." Volkov studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Very well. In our world, threats must be backed by action. Sokov needs to understand that pursuing you would cost more than he's willing to pay." "You're going to kill him," I said flatly. "Not if a less permanent solution presents itself," he replied, his tone almost casual. "But I will do whatever is necessary to ensure your safety." The matter-of-fact way he discussed potential murder sent a chill through me. This was the reality of my father's world. Life and death decisions made over dinner as casually as others might discuss business strategies. "I don't want anyone dying because of me," I said. "Then, hopefully my warning will suffice." Volkov's expression softened slightly. "This is not the introduction to fatherhood I would have chosen, Anushka, but know that everything I do now, I do to protect you." I looked away, unable to meet his gaze. "That doesn't make it right." "No," he agreed quietly. "It doesn't, but right and necessary aren't always the same thing." The days at Volkov's estate blended together in a strange rhythm of luxury and confinement. I attended my classes remotely, my professors accommodating what they believed was a family emergency in Russia. I studied in the vast library, walked the grounds under the watchful eyes of security personnel, and slowly acclimated to a life that felt both alien and oddly familiar. Volkov himself was often absent, handling what he vaguely referred to as business matters, but our dinners together became a nightly ritual. During these meals, I pieced together fragments of my mother's story, of their relationship, of the life I might have had if things had gone differently. "She was brilliant," Volkov told me one evening, his eyes distant with memory. Languages came to her like breathing. She could hear a phrase once and repeat it perfectly. "Like you." I pushed my food around my plate, still uncomfortable with these glimpses into a past I'd never known. "Grandmother never talked about her talents," I countered. just that she was beautiful and kind. She was those things too, he acknowledged. But Katya was so much more. She had fire, determination. A faint smile touched his lips. She would have been proud of the woman you've become. Would she be proud of what times you've become? I asked, the question escaping before I could reconsider. Volkov didn't flinch at the implied criticism. Perhaps not all of it, he conceded. But she would understand the choices I made after losing her, after believing I'd lost you, violence, crime. That's what you chose. I chose power, he corrected, because powerlessness cost me everything I loved. I had no response to that. How could I judge the path grief had led him down when I'd never experienced a loss so profound? On the 7th day of my exile, I was curled in a window seat in the library, translating Russian poetry for an assignment when Alex appeared in the doorway. "Miss Petrova," he said, his usual stoic expression tinged with something I couldn't identify. "Mr. Volkov requests your presence in his study." The formality in his tone alarmed me. "Is something wrong?" "It's not my place to say," he replied, which was answer enough. I followed him through the manor's winding corridors to Volkov's private study, a room I'd not yet been invited to enter. Alex knocked once, then opened the door without waiting for a response. Volkov stood by the window, his back to the door, phone pressed to his ear. He spoke rapidly in Russian, his tone carrying an edge I hadn't heard before, even without understanding his words. The tension in his shoulders told me something significant had happened. He ended the call as I entered, turning to face me. A bruise darkened his left cheekbone, and a cut bisected his eyebrow. Whatever business had been handling had clearly turned physical. "You're hurt," I said, surprising myself with how much the sight disturbed me. "It's nothing," he dismissed, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "Please, sit." I did as he asked, noting the subtle wince as he lowered himself into his own chair. "What happened? Is it Sokov?" "The situation with Sokov has been addressed," Volkov said carefully. "That's not why I asked you here." "Then what?" "I received a call from your friend Lily this morning." My blood ran cold. "What? How did she—" "Apparently, she copied my number from your phone when you weren't looking." "Resourceful girl." There was a note of reluctant admiration in his voice. "She's been investigating me. Us. Making connections." Panic flared. "Is she in danger? Did you—" "She's fine," Volkov assured me quickly. "I have no intention of harming your friend. But her curiosity poses a risk, to her, to you, to our arrangement." I slumped in relief, then tensed again as his words sank in. "What did she say?" "She demanded to know what I'd done with you. Threatened to go to the police if I didn't produce you within 24 hours. His lips quirked in what might have been amusement. "She's loyal. I respect that. Lily's just worried about me," I said defensively. "I disappeared without much explanation, which is why you need to speak with her," Volkov said. "Reassure her in person." I straightened, surprised by this unexpected concession. "You're letting me go back to the city briefly?" "Under controlled conditions," he clarified. "The situation with Sokov has been contained but not eliminated. Caution is still warranted." I wanted to press for details on what contained meant, but the prospect of returning to some semblance of normalcy, even temporarily, took precedence. "When can I go?" "Tomorrow. Alexei will drive you." Volkov's expression turned serious. "But Anna, this is not a return to your old life, not yet. You'll meet your friend, assure her of your well-being, and return here. Is that clear?" I bristled at the command, but nodded. "And my classes, my apartment, well, discuss more permanent arrangements after assessing the security situation," he said, which wasn't really an answer. One step at a time. I rose to leave, then hesitated, looking back at his injured face. "What really happened with Sokov?" Volkov met my gaze steadily. "Are you certain you want to know?" I considered the question carefully. Did I want the truth, with all its likely violence and moral ambiguity? Or was ignorance preferable? Yes, I decided. No more secrets. He gestured for me to sit again. Very well. Sokov refused to acknowledge my request for restraint regarding you. He saw you as leverage against me. His jaw tightened. A mistake he won't repeat. Did you kill him? I asked bluntly. No, Volkov replied, but I made it clear that his life and the lives of those he values exist only at my discretion. He touched the cut above his eye. He argued forcefully before accepting the new reality. I absorbed this, trying to reconcile the cultured man who discussed Russian poetry over dinner with the one who could threaten a rival's family without hesitation. How can you live like this? I asked quietly, with violence always a breath away. Something vulnerable flickered across his face. It's the only life I've known since losing your mother. Since believing I'd lost you, he looked away. But finding you, it changes things? What does that mean? It means I've been considering alternatives, he said carefully. Ways to extract myself from certain aspects of my business to create a safer environment for you. The implications stunned me. You'd leave the Bratva for me? Not completely, he continued. Not completely. Such transitions require time, planning. His eyes met mine, but for the chance to know my daughter without fear shadowing every interaction, yes, I would make changes. The sincerity in his voice cracked something in my carefully maintained defenses. For the first time since discovering his identity, I allowed myself to truly see him as my father. I never believed in fairy tales, not really. Life, I understood, was a gritty affair, a constant negotiation between dreams and reality. Then he appeared, a figure sculpted from shadows and whispered rumors. Maxim Vulov, a name that tasted like power and danger. He was flawed, undeniably so, dangerous, a fact woven into the very fabric of his being. Yet, beneath the hardened exterior, I glimpsed something else, a capacity for change, a dormant ember waiting for the right spark. I don't expect you to become someone else overnight, I told him, my voice barely a breath in the vastness of his world. But I can't be a part of that world. Not ever. His eyes, the color of a winter sky, held a depth that both frightened and intrigued me. I'm not asking you to be, he assured me, his voice a low rumble that resonated deep within my soul. I only ask for the chance to be in your life, on whatever terms you set. The enormity of that moment settled upon me like a heavy cloak. This powerful, feared man, a legend whispered in hushed tones, was placing himself at my mercy. He was willing to surrender control, to allow me to dictate the boundaries of our existence. It was a proposition as terrifying as it was alluring. I need time, I confessed, the words fragile and hesitant. To figure out what that means, what I want, a ghost of a smile touched his lips, a fleeting expression of tenderness that belied his reputation. Take all the time you need, he replied, his gaze unwavering. I've waited 25 years to find you. I can be patient now. The next morning felt like waking from a dream, a surreal and disorienting experience. The familiar skyline of the city, materializing through the car windows, brought a wave of both relief and a strange sense of displacement. I met Lily at a quiet cafe, a carefully chosen neutral ground, already swept by Vulov's unseen security. Her eyes widened at the sight of Alexei escorting me in, then narrowed with a familiar suspicion. I knew something was weird, she exclaimed as I slid into the seat. Are you okay? Are you being held against your will? Blink twice if I'm fine, Lily, I interrupted, a smile tugging at my lips despite the gravity of the situation. It's complicated, but I'm safe. Complicated? She repeated incredulously. Anna, you disappear for a week, and when I try to find you, I discover your father is Maxim freaking Vulov, the Russian mob boss. I winced, glancing around nervously. Could you say that a little louder? I don't think everyone in Manhattan heard you. Lily leaned forward, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. Is it true? Is he really your father? I nodded, the weight of the truth heavy on my shoulders. I spent the next hour unraveling the tangled threads of my life, explaining the chance encounter at Natasha's, the shocking revelation of my parentage, the looming threat from Sulov, my temporary relocation to Vulov's estate. I carefully omitted the most violent details, but gave her enough truth to quell her immediate concerns. "That's insane," she breathed when I finished, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Like Lifetime movie. Insane. Tell me about it," I agreed, sipping my now cold coffee. "So, what happens now?" she asked, her brow furrowed with worry. "Are you like the heir to a criminal empire?" I laughed, the sound tinged with a hint of hysteria. "God, no. That's not what either of us wants." I hesitated, then added, "Hez talking about making changes, stepping back from certain aspects of his business." Lily's eyebrows shot up, disbelief etched on her face. "Seriously? The notorious Maxim Vulov going straight?" "Not exactly," I clarified, choosing my words carefully. "But evolving, for me." "Wow." Lily leaned back, processing this monumental shift. "That's actually kind of beautiful, in a twisted way." "My life has become one big in a twisted way," I said, forcing a smile. We talked until Alexei discreetly checked his watch, signaling it was time to leave. As I hugged Lily goodbye, she whispered urgently, "Be careful, but also don't waste this chance, Anna. Not everyone gets to rewrite their story this way." Her words lingered in my mind during the drive back to Westchester, echoing as we passed through the imposing estate gates. I saw Vulov waiting on the steps, a solitary figure against the backdrop of his formidable home. Had come home early from his business to greet me, a small but significant gesture that spoke volumes. As I stepped from the car, our eyes met, and for the first time, I allowed myself to truly see him. Not as the fearsome Maxim Vulov, the man of myth and legend, but as my father, a man who had lost everything, built a dangerous life in the aftermath, and now stood ready to reshape that life for a daughter had just found. The healing process, I knew, would be long and arduous. "Welcome back, Anushka," he said simply, his voice devoid of its usual steel. I climbed the steps toward him, toward a future neither of us could fully predict. "I think," I said carefully, choosing my words with deliberate precision, "we should talk about those changes you mentioned." Something flickered in his steel-gray eyes, a spark of something akin to hope. My eyes. It like that. And in that moment, standing on the threshold between my old life and whatever came next, I made my choice, not to embrace his world, but to help him find a path out of it. Not to forget the man he had been, but to encourage the man he could become. It wouldn't be easy. The shadows of his past would follow us both, a constant reminder of the darkness he had inhabited. There would be complications, dangers, difficult truths to face. But for the first time in my life, I wasn't facing the unknown alone. I had found my father. And somehow, against all odds, he had found a way back to the man he might have been, a man worthy of being my father. "So," I said, stepping through the doorway beside him, "let's begin." But the fragile peace was shattered weeks later. Final exams loomed large on the horizon, a constant reminder of the life I was trying to cling to. There was no way I could simply vanish off the face of the earth because some low-life gangster decided I was of interest to him. "Your education is important, he'll grant you that," Vulov said, his voice surprisingly reasonable. "But your safety and well-being come first. I have a property upstate, isolated and completely secure. You can continue your studies remotely while I get this situation sorted out." "And just how long is that going to take?" I demanded, my voice laced with disbelief. "A few weeks, maybe? Possibly a month. Give or take." "A month?" I exclaimed, the absurdity of the situation hitting me full force. "That's non-negotiable, Anushka," Vulov cut in, his voice now carrying a sharp edge. "Sokov is not someone you want to underestimate. His men have already paid a visit to your apartment. That shut me up pretty quick. All my carefully constructed arguments dissolved in my throat, replaced by a cold knot of fear. My apartment? When did this happen? Just an hour or so ago, and believe me, they were very thorough in their search. My stomach plummeted at the mental image of those goons rummaging through my personal belongings, intruding upon the small sanctuary I had created for myself. The thought was sickening, a violation of everything I held dear. Did they? I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry. Was anything broken? Damaged? Any damage is already being taken care of, Volkov replied, his tone devoid of emotion. But that wasn't exactly a direct answer, was it? I've dispatched people to retrieve your essential items, clothes, books, your laptop. Anything else you might require can easily be purchased. Just make a list. The sheer efficiency with which he had taken control of my life both terrified me and filled me with a slow-burning anger. I felt violated and trapped, caught in a web of his making. "You had no right to do this," I cried, my voice trembling with suppressed rage. "On the contrary, I had every right." He interrupted, his voice firm and unwavering. "As your father, and as someone who understands the very real and present danger you're in, I acted accordingly." The word father hit me like a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. Just 24 short hours ago, I would have given anything at all, to hear a man claim me as his daughter with that kind of certainty and conviction. But now, the reality of the situation was far more complicated and messy than any of my fanciful daydreams had ever allowed for. This wasn't some heartwarming reunion scene from a movie. This was real life, and real life was rarely simple. "I need to let people know what's going on," I said, my mind racing with thoughts of Lily, my professors, and my boss over at Natasha's. "I can't just disappear into thin air without a word to anyone. They'll think something terrible has happened. Alex has already taken care of a cover story, a family emergency requiring your immediate and unexpected return to Russia for a few weeks. It's believable enough, and it doesn't require any detailed explanations that might raise suspicion. People accept family emergencies without much questioning." The meticulous thoroughness of his planning was unnerving, to say the least. Just how long had he been preparing for this particular possibility? Since the moment he recognized me last night, a small voice whispered in my head. "That's how long." "This is all happening way too fast," I protested, my voice coming out much weaker than I had intended. Vulov's tone softened ever so slightly, a hint of tenderness creeping into his voice. "I know, Anushka, and I truly am sorry for that. But sometimes acting fast is the only thing that can keep you alive. You have to trust me on this. Time is of the essence." His words hung there between us in the confined space, stark and undeniably true. There was no arguing with that logic, no escaping the chilling reality of the threat that loomed over us. "Fine," I conceded, my shoulders slumping in defeat, "but I want your promise on this. This is just a temporary measure. I need your word that I'll be able to return to my life when it's safe to do so. I don't want to be stuck in some gilded cage forever. The healing could only truly begin when I was free." "You have it," he said without the slightest hesitation, his eyes locking onto mine with unwavering intensity. "This is all about protecting you, not about controlling you. Never doubt that, Anushka." I desperately wanted to believe him, despite everything. Despite the shock, the fear, and the nagging suspicion that I was being manipulated like some pawn in a high-stakes game, I wanted to place my trust in this man who shared my blood, this stranger who claimed to be my father and claimed to have my best interests at heart. But trust didn't come easy for me. It'd been burned too many times in the past, the scars of those betrayals still aching beneath the surface. "I'll see you at the property tonight," Vulov continued, his voice regaining its earlier firmness. "There are a few pressing matters that I need to attend to first. Matters that I probably don't want you to know any of the details about." "All right," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "Anushka," he added, his voice lowering as he spoke my name. "Trust Alex. He would lay down his life for you without even thinking about it, simply because you're my daughter. He is completely loyal and trustworthy." The call ended abruptly, leaving me alone with that unsettling thought, as the car continued its seemingly endless journey out of the city. I stole a quick glance at Alex's stoic profile, wondering what could possibly inspire such unwavering loyalty. Was it pure fear? Simple greed? Or was it something deeper and more profound that I couldn't quite grasp? I couldn't imagine what would make someone so devoted to another person, especially someone like Vulov. "How long have you been working for Volkov?" I asked, breaking the tense silence that had settled over the car. Alex's eyes met mine briefly in the rearview mirror before returning to the road ahead. 15 years. Why? What made you choose this life? His massive shoulders lifted in a slight shrug that was almost imperceptible. He saved my life, Miss Petrova. He gave me a purpose when I had none. I was lost, and he gave me direction. Doing what exactly? A barely perceptible smile touched the corners of his lips, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared, keeping his world in order. "And now, keeping you safe," he added, glancing at me in the rearview mirror once more. I leaned back against the plush leather seat, trying to process everything he had just said. It was all so foreign and bizarre to me, so far removed from the quiet, predictable life I had always known. "And you're comfortable with that?" I asked, skeptical. "With what he does, the things he's involved in?" "Mr. Vulov is a complicated man, Miss Petrova," Alex said carefully, choosing his words with caution. "But he protects what's his territory, his people, and now," he glanced at me again, his voice softening slightly, "his family." Family. Such a simple, innocent-sounding word, yet it represented such a complex and often twisted reality. What did it really mean to be a family? I wasn't sure I even knew anymore, or if I ever truly had. "Where are we going exactly?" I asked, my gaze fixed on the passing scenery as the familiar urban landscape gradually gave way to suburban sprawl and then to more sparsely populated areas. "Westchester County, Miss Petrova," Alexei replied, his voice even and controlled. "Mr. Vulov's estate is located near the reservoir. It's very private and extremely secure. You'll be safe there." The car fell silent once again as I watched New York City, the only home I had ever truly known, slowly recede in the distance, growing smaller and smaller until it was just a faint outline on the horizon. My mind was racing, flooded with a million different questions, anxieties, and that growing, deeply unsettling awareness that my entire life had been irrevocably and permanently altered in ways I couldn't even begin to fully comprehend yet. 2 long hours later, the driver finally turned off the main road and onto a private access road that wound its way through a dense and seemingly impenetrable forest. After passing through an imposing wrought iron gate equipped with multiple security cameras, we continued driving for another mile or so before the trees finally opened up, revealing a sprawling and meticulously maintained property. At the heart of the estate stood a magnificent stone manor house that looked as if it belonged in the rolling hills of the English countryside rather than in upstate New York. It was something straight out of a storybook, a world away from the cramped, chaotic city I had left behind. "This is his?" I asked, unable to keep the sheer awe and disbelief from my voice. The place was absolutely breathtaking, a testament to unimaginable wealth and power. "One of several properties that Mr. Vulov owns," Alex confirmed, as he pulled the car up to the front entrance of the manor. "But this is where he comes when he needs peace and quiet. It's his sanctuary, so to speak." The term, peace and quiet, seemed completely incongruous and out of place when applied to what I knew of Maxim Volkov and his life, but I refrained from saying anything as Alexei opened my door and politely escorted me inside the grand manor house. The interior was unexpectedly warm, inviting, and elegant, more akin to a cozy country home than an ostentatious display of wealth. It was tastefully decorated with honey-colored wood paneling, plush and comfortable furnishings in rich jewel tones, walls lined with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves overflowing with literature, and large windows that flooded the space with an abundance of natural light. The overall effect was surprisingly comforting and homey, which was the last thing I expected. A sense of peace, however fleeting, washed over me. "Your rooms are upstairs, Miss Petrova," Alexei said, gesturing towards a sweeping, intricately carved staircase that led to the upper floors. "Mr. Volkov thought you might appreciate the opportunity to rest and freshen up before dinner. I'm sure you're exhausted from your travels." The luxurious suite he showed me to was easily larger than my entire cramped apartment back in the city. It included a spacious sitting area with a fireplace, a massive four-poster bed that looked incredibly inviting, and an extravagant bathroom that featured both a clawfoot soaking tub and a walk-in shower big enough to accommodate at least 3 people comfortably. It was all so over-the-top and luxurious that it felt completely surreal, a world removed from the life I knew. "Your personal belongings are all in the closet, Miss Petrova," Alexei informed me, gesturing towards a large walk-in closet. "If you require anything else, simply pick up the house phone located on the bedside table and dial 0. Mrs. Petranko, the housekeeper, will be happy to assist you with anything you need. Just don't hesitate to ask." After Alexei took his leave, I spent the next several minutes exploring my new temporary quarters in a complete daze, overwhelmed by the sheer opulence and extravagance of it all. The walk-in closet had indeed been meticulously stocked with my clothes, neatly arranged by color and type, alongside a selection of brand-new items with designer tags still attached. My collection of books was carefully arranged on a shelf next to a comfortable reading chair, positioned perfectly near a window with a stunning view of the gardens. My laptop computer was waiting for me on a writing desk beneath a window that overlooked the perfectly manicured and seemingly endless gardens. It was all so surreal, this strange and jarring juxtaposition of my modest possessions placed within such an opulent and extravagant setting. It felt as if my entire life had been somehow lifted from its familiar foundations and unceremoniously dropped into someone else's reality. The contrast was almost comical, a painful reminder of the vast chasm that separated my world from his. Exhaustion suddenly washed over me like a powerful wave, nearly knocking me off my feet. The cumulative effect of the past 24 hours, the initial shock, the constant fear, the overwhelming uncertainty, the relentless vigilance, finally caught up with me all at once, leaving me feeling completely and utterly spent. I barely managed to stumble my way over to the enormous four-poster bed before collapsing onto it in a heap, completely and utterly spent. Sleep claimed me instantly, a deep and dreamless oblivion that offered a temporary respite from the turmoil that raged within me. I was awakened several hours later by a soft knocking at the door, and the slow realization that a significant amount of time had passed since I had last been conscious. The room was now bathed in the warm and golden light of late afternoon. "Miss Petrova?" A woman's voice called out from the other side of the door. The voice was heavily accented, and I assumed it belonged to Mrs. Petranko, the housekeeper. "Dinner will be served in 30 minutes, she continued. "Mr. Vulov has arrived and has asked me to inform you." "Thank you," I called back, sitting up groggily and trying to get my bearings. "He'll be down in just a few minutes." I quickly hopped out of bed, took a refreshing shower, and changed into a pair of my own comfortable jeans and a new cashmere sweater that I had discovered among the items Volkov had so thoughtfully provided. As I brushed my hair, I paused to study my reflection in the ornate mirror. The same green eyes stared back at me, the same dark hair framed my face, the same features I had known all my life were still there. And yet, despite all that, everything had irrevocably changed. I was still Anna Petrova, struggling waitress and linguistics student, but now I was also the daughter of Maxim Vulov, a man who was powerful and dangerous enough to completely uproot my entire existence within a matter of hours after discovering my true identity. The burning question that kept swirling around in my mind was this: who would I ultimately be by the time this temporary situation finally resolved itself? Would I ever be the same person again, or would I be forever altered by the experience, forever marked by the shadow of his world? With a sigh, I turned away from the mirror and made my way downstairs, following the enticing scent of food to a formal dining room where Volkov was already waiting for me, rising to his feet as I entered the room. He had changed his attire since our tense morning meeting in the car. now dressed in a simple but elegant button-down shirt and tailored slacks that somehow made him look less intimidating and far more approachable. The transformation was subtle but undeniable. "Anushka," he greeted me with a polite nod. "I trust you found everything to your liking? Was everything comfortable and suitable?" "It's all very nice," I replied, my voice sounding somewhat inadequate in the face of such opulence. "But it's still a gilded cage, isn't it? A beautiful prison." Something that resembled approval flickered in his steel-gray eyes, a flicker of something warm and almost tender. "You have your grandmother's directness and sharp wit," he remarked, a hint of a smile playing on his lips. "I appreciate that. Please, sit." As if on cue, a woman, presumably Mrs. Petranco, appeared from the kitchen, carrying a tray laden with steaming dishes, a fragrant bowl of borscht, a rich and creamy beef stroganoff, and a platter of perfectly roasted root vegetables. The familiar aromas instantly transported me back to my grandmother's small but cozy kitchen, and an unexpected lump formed in my throat. The memories of her love and warmth were overwhelming, a poignant reminder of the simple joys I had taken for granted. "Your grandmother's recipes," Vulov explained, noticing my emotional reaction. "I had them recreated especially for you. I thought they might bring you some comfort." The thoughtful gesture was completely unexpected and surprisingly effective. It managed to breach a small opening in my carefully constructed defenses, a chink in the armor I had instinctively built around my heart. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of circumstances, there was still room for compassion, for kindness, for the possibility of healing.